All right, so let's just dive right in. Today we're going to be exploring niche domination. And I think you're really going to want to take notes on this one. Whether you're thinking about starting some sort of online business venture or just wondering, how these online gurus dominate these really specific markets online, this is going to be the episode for you.
Yeah, it's really amazing how much the internet has changed. Even in, just the last couple of years, it's not even enough to just have a great idea anymore. You really need to find that perfect little group of people that are passionate about what you can offer them.
Yeah, it's like finding your tribe online, right?
Yeah.
But how do you even start to find these little hidden gem niches? Well, luckily we have a roadmap from blogwidow.com, and their post is called Niche Domination: How to Identify and Capitalize on Untapped Market Opportunities. And they break down some really smart strategies. We're talking about refs and Google Trends, even Reddit.
Yeah, the blog post starts off by really emphasizing how important it is to choose the right niche. And it makes sense, choosing a niche is like laying the foundation of a skyscraper. Everything else is built on top of that.
Yeah, I totally get that focusing on a niche helps us target the right audience. But isn't there a risk that we could be limiting how many customers we can reach?
Well, it might seem kind of counterintuitive, but niching down can actually help you build a much stronger community. You know, think about it this way. Let's say that you're really passionate about vintage video games. If you're trying to be the go-to source for everything from Atari to PlayStation 5, you're just going to get lost in all the noise out there. But if you specialize in something specific, like let's say rare Nintendo cartridges from the 80s, then all of a sudden you're attracting a group of passionate collectors and they're going to see you as the expert.
Okay, yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
You're not just attracting customers, you're building a community of people that trust you and your expertise.
Exactly. And that targeted focus is going to make everything else so much easier, from like making your content to getting your website ready for search engines.
Oh yeah, speaking of search engines, how does focusing on a niche help with that whole SEO thing?
Well, this is where those long tail keywords really come into play. Remember, people use specific phrases when they're close to buying something. So instead of just searching for shoes online, they might be looking for vegan running shoes for flat feet.
So if you're the online authority for vegan running shoes for flat feet, you're going to be at the top of the search results.
Exactly. It's like having a secret weapon in the online marketing world.
Wow, this is all starting to make sense to me. But I have to be honest, finding these hidden niches still feels a little scary to me. The blog post talks about 6 different strategies, so where do we even begin?
Well, it really depends on what you already know and what you're trying to accomplish. Let's say that you're starting from scratch with just a passion for vegan baking. I would suggest maybe starting with Google Trends and Reddit. They can really give you a sense of what people are searching for and talking about.
So Google Trends would show us if searches for vegan gluten-free cupcakes are like skyrocketing, and Reddit would give us insights into what those bakers are having trouble with.
You got it. It's like you're getting a sneak peek into the minds of your potential audience.
Okay, that makes sense for someone just starting out. But what about those of us that already have like a website or a business? How can we use these strategies to find new opportunities within our niche?
Well, that's where something called competitor analysis comes in. Don't worry, it's totally legal. Tools like RFs and SEMrush let you basically look behind the scenes and see what's working for your competitors. You can see what keywords they're ranking for, what content they're making, and even who's linking to their website.
So we're kind of spying on our competition,
Mm.
but in a way that actually helps us learn and grow. I like that. But isn't there a risk that we could get stuck in this cycle of always trying to one-up each other?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's important to use competitor analysis not to just copy what they're doing, but to find opportunities that maybe they're missing. Let's say your competitor is ranking well for vegan chocolate cake recipes, but they haven't really touched vegan gluten-free birthday cakes. Well, that could be your chance to do something.
So we're not trying to steal their keywords, but we're trying to find gaps in the market where we can offer something unique and valuable to people.
Exactly. It's about finding those areas where you can really stand out and be the expert. And speaking of standing out, the blog post has this really interesting strategy using Amazon to do niche research.
Wait, Amazon? You mean like the big online shopping website? What does that have to do with finding hidden niches?
It's all about looking for products that are selling well but don't have that many reviews. That could mean that people are buying the product, but they want more information about it.
Interesting. So if I see some vegan protein powder that has a ton of sales, but only a few reviews, that could be a sign that people need more guidance on how to use it in recipes or smoothies.
That's exactly it. And that's where you come in. You can provide the content to fill that gap, and it makes you look like the expert.
Wow, I'm already looking at Amazon in a totally different way. This is like finding those secret aisles in the grocery store where all the good deals are hiding.
Exactly. It's all about finding those opportunities that no one else is really paying attention to.
Okay, let's talk about the next strategy. The blog post mentions Reddit and niche forums. I'll admit I spend way too much time on Reddit already.
Hey, no judgment here. Reddit is a gold mine for niche research because you get to see real conversations happening. You see what people are passionate about, what they're struggling with, and what questions they have.
So instead of just guessing what people want, we can actually see them talking about it online.
Exactly. And if you see the same question popping up over and over in a certain subreddit or forum, that's a sure sign that you've found a content gap that needs to be filled.
So for example, if I'm in a vegan baking forum and I keep seeing people ask about how to make eggless macarons, that's a sign that people need a really good guide on how to make those.
Exactly. You're basically listening in on your target audience and figuring out what you can help them with.
I love that. Okay, let's move on to the fifth strategy. This one takes us back to the long tail keywords we talked about earlier. The blog post mentions some specific tools to find those keywords. What are those all about?
Tools like Ubersuggest and Answer the Public are like these machines that generate keywords. You type in a broad term like vegan baking, and they'll give you hundreds of long-tail keywords that people are actually using to search online.
So instead of trying to rank for just vegan cookies, I could target something like best vegan chocolate chip cookies without brown sugar.
Exactly. The more specific you can get, the better. Remember, those long-tail keywords usually mean that someone is pretty close to making a purchase?
Okay, I'm definitely going to be using those tools. Last but not least, the blog post mentions using surveys and polls to find niche opportunities. Isn't that kind of old school in today's world of social media?
Not at all. Surveys and polls let you ask your audience what they think and what they want. And they don't have to be complicated either. You could do a simple poll on Instagram asking something like, "What's your biggest challenge with vegan baking?" And you might be surprised at what you learn.
So it's all about talking to your audience and asking them what they need.
Exactly. And if you have an email list, you can send out a quick survey and use that to make content that people actually want to see.
Okay, so we've gone over 6 really great strategies for finding these hidden niche opportunities, from looking at Google Trends and Reddit to seeing what our competitors are doing, and even using Amazon.
Yeah.
I feel like we've gone from wandering around in the dark to having a flashlight to guide our way.
I like that analogy. We've gone from broad market research to those laser-focused insights that can really make all the difference.
But finding the right niche is only part of the equation, right? What happens once we've found that perfect niche? How do we become like the rulers of our online world?
That's a great question, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about in part 2 of this deep dive. We're going to find out how to take all that niche knowledge and turn it into a successful online presence. Welcome back. So we've uncovered some really cool strategies to find all those hidden niche opportunities online. But as we just talked about, that's just the first step.
It's like we found this amazing uncharted island full of potential, but now we have to actually, build something on it.
Exactly. The blogwidow.com post that we're using as our guide calls this next phase from finding to dominating. And they talk about 3 key areas: creating really good content, building an email list, and then connecting with influencers in your niche.
Okay, let's start with the content. We always hear that content is king, but when we're talking about niche domination, what does that actually look like? What is good content?
Well, think about it like this. Would you rather read a blog post that just kind of skims the surface, or would you rather read like a super detailed guide that answers every question you might have?
I would definitely want to read that detailed guide. It's like the difference between reading a quick Wikipedia summary and getting a whole college lecture on a topic.
That's exactly it. When you're trying to dominate your niche, you want to be the ultimate resource. Like the Wikipedia, the college professor. You want to be the person people go to when they want to learn everything about a topic. Think about making comprehensive guides, really in-depth tutorials, case studies. You could even do your own research.
So it's more about going really deep on one topic instead of trying to cover a bunch of different things. Like instead of trying to cover every single thing about vegan baking, I should focus on being the expert on, let's say, vegan sourdough bread.
Yes. You want people to think of you as the vegan sourdough expert.
I see how that goes back to what we talked about before with the long tail keywords. If I make content about those super specific searches, I'm going to attract the right people, And they'll start to see me as the expert.
That's exactly right. It's all connected. Now, apart from making awesome content, the blog post also really stresses how important it is to build an email list. A lot of people might think that email is kind of outdated, but I really think it's more important now than ever.
Yeah, I'll admit I'm one of those people that hits the unsubscribe button pretty quickly, but I'm starting to see how email can be different from those annoying marketing emails that we get all the time.
An email list is all about making a real connection with the people that are really engaged with your content. These are the people who really care about what you're doing and actually want to hear from you. Think of it like a VIP club.
Okay, I like that. So what kind of perks would I give to my vegan baking VIPs?
Oh, it could be all kinds of things. Like maybe you give them special recipes and tips or early access to new products or courses. Maybe you give them a discount on your sourdough starter kit, or you have a live Q&A just for your email subscribers.
What's really interesting to me is that when you have an email list, you have so much more control. You're not relying on social media algorithms to show your content to people. It's your own direct connection with your audience.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You're not depending on some other company to decide who sees your stuff. You're talking directly to your biggest fans. And, speaking of building relationships, the blog post also talks about networking with influencers.
I really like this idea because it's all about working together instead of competing with each other.
Exactly. It's all about finding win-win situations where everyone benefits. Let's say you connect with a vegan food blogger who has a lot of followers. You could write guest posts for each other's websites. You could make a video together, or even just share each other's work on social media.
So it's about sharing audiences and using each other's knowledge to help each other out.
Exactly. That kind of cross-promotion can be super helpful, especially when you're just getting started.
This is all making so much sense. We have our great content that's bringing in the right people. Our email list is building relationships with our audience, and we're working with influencers to get our name out there. It's like the perfect recipe for online success.
I love that analogy. But before we get too excited and start celebrating our niche domination, we should probably talk about the elephant in the room. What happens when your niche is not so niche anymore?
You're talking about what happens when it gets too crowded. Like, what if all those hidden gems that we worked so hard to find suddenly get super competitive?
Exactly. It's a valid concern and something we should definitely think about.
So what do we do? Are we just always going to be chasing the next big thing, always trying to stay one step ahead of everyone else?
It doesn't have to be that way. I think the real answer is changing how we think about things. Instead of thinking of saturation as the end of the road, what if we saw it as a new opportunity?
An opportunity. What do you mean?
Well, when a niche becomes really crowded, it means that there are a lot of people who are interested in those products or services. Yes, there's more competition, but that competition can actually make us better. It pushes us to come up with new ideas to improve what we're offering and to find new ways to stand out.
So instead of running away from a niche that's getting crowded, we should lean into it and use that competition to make ourselves better.
Exactly. Remember all those important things we've been talking about. Creating great content, connecting with your audience, and working with other people. Those things become even more important when there's more competition.
It's like saying, okay, the game is getting harder, so I need to level up my skills and play even better.
That's a great way to put it. Maybe you focus even more on your content and make even better guides and resources than anyone else. Or maybe you get even more personal with your email marketing and send messages that are specifically for each person on your list.
And maybe we find new and exciting ways to work with other people, finding partners who can help us reach new audiences.
Yes. When things get crowded, it forces us to step up our game, to really think about what makes us different and to understand what our audience really wants. It's about standing out, not about giving up.
I'm starting to see things differently now.
Mhm.
I'm not as worried about my niche getting crowded anymore. I see it as a challenge and a chance to grow and get better.
And isn't that what being an entrepreneur is all about? It's about facing challenges, adapting to new things, and always trying to improve.
This whole deep dive has been so helpful, and I know our listeners are going to walk away with a ton of new ideas and a fresh perspective on niche domination.
We've covered a lot of ground, from finding those hidden gems to talking about the bigger picture stuff like saturation and what the future of online business might look like.
It's been an amazing journey, and we want to thank you, our listener, for diving deep with us. Remember, the internet is always changing, but if you have the right attitude and remember those core principles that we've talked about, you can not only survive those changes, but you can actually succeed because of them.
So go out there, find your niche, build your community, and dominate your space. And if you ever have any questions or want to share your own journey with us, we would love to hear from you.
Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep. Welcome back to the Deep Dive.
So we've been talking all about niche domination, from, finding those hidden gems to building a whole online empire.
Yeah, and it's been awesome to see how excited everyone is about these strategies, and I think we're ready to tackle those big questions that you asked at the end of the last part.
Right. We talked about finding those niches that no one else is really in, becoming the expert, and even changing with the times as our niche grows. But what happens when, every niche gets crowded? Is it just a race to the bottom where everyone's trying to find the next big thing before it gets too competitive?
That's a really interesting question, and it makes you think about what success really means in the online world. I think the key is to change how we look at things. What if, instead of seeing saturation as the end, we saw it as a new beginning?
A new beginning. What do you mean? Well, just think about it. When a niche gets crowded, it means that there are already people who are interested in those products or services. Yeah, there's more competition, but that can actually be a good thing. It makes us get creative, improve what we're offering, and find new ways to stand out.
So instead of being scared of a niche that's getting crowded, we should use that competition to make ourselves better.
Yeah, exactly. Remember all those important things we've been talking about. Making great content, connecting with your audience, and working with others. Those things are even more important when there's a lot of competition.
It's kind of like if you're playing a game and it starts to get harder, so you have to level up your skills to keep winning.
Right. Maybe you start making even better guides and resources than anyone else. Or you get really specific with your emails and send messages that are perfect for each person on your list.
And maybe we find new and interesting ways to partner with other people so we can reach even more people.
Exactly. When there's more competition, it makes us think about what makes us special and what our audience really wants. It's about being different, not about giving up.
Wow, you know what? I'm not really worried about my niche getting crowded anymore. It feels more like a challenge that I can overcome.
And that's what makes a good entrepreneur, right? Being able to face challenges, adapt to change, and always look for ways to improve.
This whole deep dive has been so valuable, and I know our listeners are going to be able to use these strategies to build their own success.
We've covered so much, from finding those hidden niches to talking about the big picture stuff like competition and what's next for online business.
It's been an amazing journey, and we want to thank you for joining us on the deep dive. Remember, the internet is always changing, but if you stay positive and remember the things we've talked about, you can achieve anything online.
So go out there, find your niche, build your community, and make it your own. And if you ever have any questions or want to share your own experiences, we'd love to hear from you.
That's it for this episode of The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.